to choose PC fans for your computer. And I'm going to break this up into sections to try and make it easier for you to digest, make it chapters so that you can look at what you feel you need to look at rather than looking at everything. So the first part is going to be about choosing the right fan size. Now, this sounds so simple, but people get confused about even this kind of thing sometimes. What you want to do is you want to choose your case. And I know this sounds obvious, but choose your case before you start buying fans. Number one, because if you don't know what the case is, you don't know what size fans it can contain. Number two, you may decide to modify the case to accept additional fans or just accept different size fans. Like, for example, you might want to cut a hole in the side panel if it's made of metal so you can have a fan blowing directly on the CPU or onto the graphics card. Fans range in size from about 40 millimeters up to over 220 meters, but I'm going to stick to what I've got, which is about 80 millimeters up to 220 millimeters. And first I want you to understand the difference in size. So hold on here. So here we have fans ranging in size from about 80 millimeters up to 220 meters at the top there. And you can see the difference in size that way. So looking here, this fan and this fan are actually not just different in terms of the frame size, they are actually slightly different in terms of the size of the fan itself. So if I pick this up, it's hard to tell the difference, but there is actually a difference. So if, for example, I measure the actual size of the fan itself, then we get approximately 2 7/8 inches, whereas this one is more like 3 inches, which is interesting because of the frame size. It makes it a little bit confusing. So we've got, this is an 80 millimeter. This is supposed to be an 80 millimeter, but again, they're not exactly precise in terms of how many millimeters. This is supposed to be a 120, a 140, a 180, a 200, and then the 220 millimeter fan. So as you can see, there's a great deal of difference between them. The larger the fan is, generally speaking, as you can see, this is 700 RPMs, the slower the fan will rotate at maximum speed. And this is because the blades allow for the fan to turn slower while still providing a lot of airflow. And in some cases, depending on the fan, it could also be very good at providing static pressure. So now you have kind of an idea of size. These two here are fairly uncommon except for like server size cases, ITX cases, and other very small cases. These three, the 180, 200, and 220, are also fairly uncommon except for very large cases like full tower cases. The most common ones are these two, the 120s and the 140s. By far, the most common is the 120, however. In the past, these smaller ones also used to be very common, but as computers have heated up, they've had to ramp up the size of the fans in order to keep up with the heat being produced by the computers. So again, make sure that you know what your case is going to hold or what it can hold, and if you're going to do any modifications. A lot of people don't modify their cases, which is understandable. You need to have something to cut metal or plastic or whatever it is that you're going to be working on, and that's intimidating for a lot of people, even though it's not actually complicated. It's just you either need power tools or you need to have strong hands.